Hi, this is Michael Guest from Persist, and this is just a quick ad hoc screencast on how to use the reveal spike detector with a recording that's not a 1020 scalp recording. This is a recording made with depth electrodes. So let's jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and double click on the lay file. This has been archived and de-identified. And we'll go ahead and launch Persist. This shows up initially with trends configured for 1020. That's okay, we're not going to use those at this point with this recording. We're just going to select the EEG button and we'll switch to the recorded montage because this recording does not have any 1020 labels. Now they appear. Go ahead and change the gain to get them on screen a little better. And now we can see all the channel labels on the left, the waveforms being displayed. Let's go ahead and decrease the number of channels. We can see the channel labels then and select them a little bit more easily. So when I slide the channel per page down, you see that we get a vertical scroll bar on the right so we can page up and down through the waveforms. That's good for montage modifications and review. Handy for either, and I'm going to page down. And first thing I'm going to do is create a detection montage. You don't have to do this, but it allows us to do some other things. For instance, use it for review and to avoid having to make extensive modifications. For instance, if there were a lot of channels that were unused, turning them off in the detector. So either way, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it this way. I'm going to highlight these marker channels and the EKG channel. I'm going to delete these from the montage, and then I'm going to go ahead and save this montage and call it ST stereotactic, and I'm going to just put a number 1 there and save it. Normally you'd use the name. So now the recorded montage, again, that's all the channels that were recorded with original labels. I'm going to go ahead and switch to montage favorites. I can add it to the favorites if I'd like. Click OK, and now it's available in the drop-down list. Next thing I'd like to do is to go to the Tools menu and select Spike Detection. And this brings up the Reveal dialog. Let's go ahead and configure this. So right now we have a default scalp protocol in there. This is only enabled for running with scalp EEGs. If we enable Reveal for 1020 recordings, normally you'd never do that because the Persist 13 spike detector is significantly newer, more accurate, more sensitive. So, but the Reveal detector allows us to apply non-1020 channels. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll go to Settings and Protocol, and I'm going to select that montage that we just created, STEEG1. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll down the list and make sure that these channels all have a code of none. If some of these have a prefix that is shared with the 1020 labeling system, then you may see channels listed as an iBlink or temporal channel code. If that were the case, what we'd want to do is highlight that and edit, and here you can see that this is where you can disable those codes, and normally we'd select none for this. Also, we can disable channels from being processed. This is a 3-position button, so we can deselect this not to process a channel that may be noisy or again unused or be a marker channel or otherwise not including EEG. Master control in this case allows us to set a gain differently for different channels. For instance, if you have some that are placed in white matter and some in gray matter, you may see different amplitudes, and that allows you to do that. So we're going to go ahead and hit cancel because all these are good. And then I'm going to deselect the automatic button, and I'm going to manually set the gain. These are macro EEG electrodes, and as you can see from the toolbar up at the top, I'm reviewing this at 70 microvolts. So I'm going to go ahead and set this to 70. So this is a visual gain that the detector will use in assessing the discharges and hoping to pick those out. We're going to remove the Use 1020 Topology button here, and we can select Always Use G2. That's going to show us the G2 input in the montage if you want to show that and affect it for changing reference on certain channels. Otherwise, we're going to leave this deselected. Also, Use Scalp Sign we're going to leave disabled. Depending on the orientation of the electrodes, you may get scalps that are spike discharges that are going upwards or downwards. So in this case, we're going to leave that deselected as well. Now optionally you can do rhythmic burst detection, and again that's looking for an evolving rhythmic burst. Let's go ahead and select that tab, and we do the same things. We select the montage, turn off the automatic gain control, and we'll set it to our review gain. And here we can scroll up and down in the list, see if any of these had a code associated with them. They don't. Then we'll go to settings. Now I'm going to store detailed spike information. We'll find out about that in a bit. What this does is stores the information for height, angle, and duration in with the detection results. So in this case we're going to go ahead and do that. Detection sensitivity, the default for scalp is 0.5. When I'm starting out with a recording that may have different amplitudes or may have some poorly formed spikes in them and so forth, by all means you can reduce these numbers when running detection if you would like to see what the optimal detection sensitivity is for any particular recording. So by lowering that threshold from the default, we can do a test run and see how well does it detect at that particular sensitivity. So by lowering that threshold, it increases the sensitivity. And this, again, is a scale from 0 to 1. If we set it to 1, it would be the lowest sensitivity. If we set it to 0.1, it would be the maximum sensitivity. So I'll just set that to 0.2 for now to see how that looks. Review my settings by going to each tab. And then I'll go ahead and close, and I'm going to save this protocol. And I'm going to name this STEEG1. Again, you can name them anything you like. Patient name or anything that's descriptive. It makes it easy to find the name of the protocol in the drop-down list. So once I've done that, I can go ahead and process. I'm going to turn off the notify settings so that it doesn't pop something up on the screen while I'm running the detection. But I've told it to detect spikes, spike bursts, which are more than one spike within the time frame set in our settings, and rhythmic burst detection, which looks for an evolving rhythmic pattern in the EEG. So I'll go ahead and select process, and it'll begin going through the recording. Go ahead and set this back to displaying all the channels. Here we've jumped ahead to the spot where reveal has reached the end of the recording, so I'm going to go ahead and close the reveal dialog. Now to look at the results, I'm going to use the spike clustering program, and that's launched from Insight 2. So I'll go ahead and bring that up by going to Tools and Insight 2, and I'm going to close some of these boxes that we're not using. Now we can go through these results using the comment list or the spike clustering program. So to go just through the spike detections, we can use display all. We can go to spike detections in the comment list here. You can sort by perception, which is the probability that the algorithm believes that it is a detection, or we can go by channel and group those together. And again, each time you click, it'll sort alphabetically one way or the other. Let's go ahead and launch the spike clustering program. So I'll go to Tools and Spike Clustering. Now right now the map is blank because it's set to use a 1020 map. We haven't built a map to display voltage plots using a custom electrode map, although you certainly could. But what we'll do is we'll sort the detections using the cluster button. Usually 7 is a good number. It starts out at 4, but we'll set it to 7, which is a level of dissimilarity in groups. And we're going to sort it both by topology and morphology. Topology parameter will say whatever's the highest amplitude as opposed to the highest perception. You can use either one. Height tends to localize pretty well. Morphology is just going to look at duration, height, and angle of the spike detection. You can add these other parameters as well. Typically not done though. First half wave, second half wave duration, so that's the FHW, SHW, and then you have slow wave duration and height. But we'll go ahead and leave these as the default parameters. Select OK. And now it's going to show us the detections in order of group. And the averages here on the left is an average of 64 detections split up into two averages of 49 and 15 based on the greatest difference of morphology or topology. Now we can sort these by, again, perception, time, spike focus, and going down the list, we can decide if we want to include these or not. So I'm going to select delete. Notice that the group disappears from our review. So basically what we'll do is decide if we want to include these in our final review or not. And again, you can go through the individuals using the up and down arrows to the right. So I'm going to go through these sort of by perception, put the highest perception ones at the top, and I'm going to keep these. So I will select the next button, and the next button, and the next button. Some of these are broken out into subgroups, some are not, based on the similarity of the detections within the group. I'm going to delete this group. Again, just looking at morphology and topology, I'm going to keep this group. And I'll look at that group later in more detail. Just going through this to show the operation of the and the effect of the delete buttons and the next button. So now that we're at group 7 of 6, I deleted the last group. Now it says 6 of 6. After clicking that, I'll click done. And now these groups are laid out back to back in the averages, so I can select one of these groups. I can go down through the detections, and any one of these by selecting the group. Here's 39 in this collection. And what I can do is scroll the EEG to that point as well. So if I click Tools and scroll the EEG page and then minimize the spike clustering program, it's taken me to this point in the EEG. So that's just a very quick overview of some of the review tools for looking at spike detections. Any questions? Feel free to contact me. Thanks so much.